Hi everyone, this is Felicat and today I'm going to show you how to build a full support High Priest in Ragnarok Origin Classic. In this video, there will be 3 stat and skill allocation builds, which is for when you're hunting, when you're doing MVPs, and when you're doing PvP. Also, quick shout out to my friend Aika for lending us his character in this video today. There are 3 presets that we usually use, and now I'm going to choose the one for hunting first. We're gonna go through this one real quick, guys, because I think the hunting preset is quite simple and most people already know how to build it. This is our stat allocation. You're gonna want high magic power and quick casting time. For the skill allocation, you're just gonna wanna focus on one skill, which is the Magnus Exorcimus. You're gonna spam this skill when you're doing MA, CT, or MR. One quick tip, you guys can use this Magnus Exorcimus build when you're doing Ton 2nd floor with the Undyne to slow down the minions with Magnus Exorcimus. But I'm just going to show you the overall skill allocation for this build. So this is the first job build. You're just going to take all the buffs. We're not going to use Kyrie Ellison later on. This is the second job build. Some skills are taken here just to fill up the skill points allocation for the second job. Now let's just move on to the Transcendent second job skills. Even for the Transcendent second job, we're going to take the buff skills. However, I don't think we use a lot of the second Transcendent job skills when we're hunting monsters. Now I'm just going to show you guys the auto settings. Basically, you put in all the buffs and Magnus Exorcimus on your auto setting skills. So firstly, we're gonna put in the Blessing, then the Angelus, Recovery, Imposito Magnus, Bonded Fate, and the Magnus Exorcimus to spam. Actually, you guys can remove the Bonded Fate because when you're hunting, you're usually alone. Anyways, let's move on to the second set of build. Now, many of you guys might actually be more interested in the PvP build, but I'm gonna show you the MVP build first, since we do MVPs daily and you might need it more frequently. So even the stat allocation for these 3 builds are different. For MVPs, it's intelligence first, then dex and fit. You want intelligence to get as much healing as possible. You don't need vitality as much because as long as you position yourself during the MVP raids, then you're not going to die. However, we still need a little bit of vitality so that we won't die instantaneously if we get attacked. And obviously, int and dex is for casting time reduction. Next, we're gonna go for the skill allocations. First, we're gonna start with the first job. You're always going to use Blessing, Increase Agi, and Angelus. You're going to spam heal later on, but you are not going to use Kyrie Ellison because Kyrie Ellison clashes with your Assumptio skill, which you're also going to spam. But first, I want to give you guys a preview of the skills itself. So Blessing gives you these buffs: Strength, Dex, and Int. Increase Agi gives you Agility and also movement speed. Your Angelus gives you increased base P-Def by 95%. It clashes with the singing voice of the performer. It's the exact same buff. So now we're just gonna move on to the second job skills. During MVPs, you don't really need Magnificat as much. It's better to use your skill points on other skills. Definitely Resurrection is important. You need it at level 4. I think there's a bug in the skill description. It's supposed to be drop to 0, restoring at 40% of their max HP. Next, you're gonna want Sanctuary. This is for your tank, so they don't die as easily. Also, since you heal more, you have a higher chance to get points for TR. However, Priest excels in the buff skills, such as Imposito Manus. Obviously, you're gonna want this skill at its highest level so your teammates can deal more damage to the MVP. Other than these buff skills, you're also gonna want to take the Safety Wall. Spam it at your tank so they won't die as quickly since a lot of MVPs does melee attacks. Aika also took recovery. This is just to fill up the skill points, but also just in case we get any debuffs on us. Next, also always take Aspercio for MVPs. You're gonna need it for fighting against undead and demon MVPs. And last but not least, always take Gloria for MVP hunting. It will increase your luck, which increases your attack slightly as well as your critical. The last skill that we take is the increased SP recovery. We don't really need it, it's just that we're trying to fill up the skill points allocation. Now let's move on to the Transcendent second job skills. This is our skill tree as of now. We're also gonna take Assumptio, but let's focus first on Lex Aeterna. You can spam this skill at the MVP so that the damage dealt by your team is increased significantly. Assumptio is also very OP. It increases your P-Def and M-Def by 100%. I would say this skill is what gives High Priest an edge over Performers. Because the Performer skill of Battle Theme is only 10% increase instead of the 100% from Assumptio. I'm gonna show you guys later on how different it is, but first let's continue with the skill allocation for MVPs. Next up, there is the Suffragium skill. I wouldn't say we need to spam this skill, so we're not gonna take it for now. Definitely take Bonded Fate. You guys can use Bonded Fate either on your damage dealer to increase their damage or on your tank to heal them. This would depend on your team composition. Next up, you're also going to want to take the Leap of Faith as well as Epiclesis. We still have one more skill point to use, so we're gonna use it on the Remove Crowd Control effect. Alright, so those are the skills that you're going to take when you're doing MVPs. These are the auto settings that you can use. Always put Resurrection first. Then second would be removing any debuff skills on your team. You should also always use Bonded Fate. Rewatch is not as important, depends if you're fighting the Dracula or not. And you can just spam the Lex Aeterna. Of course, since you're full support, you need to put in all your buff skills. So you're gonna want Blessing, Angelus, Impositio, Gloria, Assumptio, and Heal. Now let's move on to the last preset. I know a lot of you guys are waiting for the PvP preset. So let's just start. Again, we're gonna be as tanky as possible. You need the fit to be maxed out. However, since you are a High Priest and there's a lot of casting in your skills, you're also gonna need Dex for reducing the fixed cast time, also Intelligence for reducing the variable cast time. Now I'm gonna take you guys through the skill allocation for the PvP build. So in the skill allocation, let's start with the first job. It's always the same. It always looks like this. You're gonna be spamming Heal during PvP because it gives you damage reduction plus 10% for 2 seconds. That's really OP, guys. Again, you're gonna take Blessing, increase Agi, Angelus, and the Kyrie Ellison is just to make up the skill point allocation. Next up, we're gonna move on to the second job skills. Magnificat, we don't really use it during PvP, it's just we need to take 40 job skills. Impositio, definitely you need it to buff your party members for their attack. The next skill is going to be Resurrection. I don't think I need to explain much about this skill. You definitely don't need to use Sanctuary. Between Panuma and Safety Wall, we're choosing Safety Wall. The reason is, during PvP, you can somewhat tank melee attacks. However, if a sniper is dealing a lot of damage, Panuma is not gonna help you either way. Because snipers rely on ASPD and critical attacks. So Safety Wall is a better choice in my opinion because you can still tank those attacks. Disclaimer, you guys can choose your own skills, this is just my recommendation. Next up, you're not gonna need Aspercio because why use Holy Attack during PvP? You're gonna need Gloria. Gloria gives you luck, which also increases your crit res. You're gonna need Recovery to remove any debuffs on your teammates. We're gonna take the increased SP Recovery because it's a prerequisite to your Meditatio on your second trance job. So for Meditatio, it's very important for all the buffs you need as a support. It's all passive, so you need to take it. It's quite similar to the Performer's Dance Mastery passive skills. It increases your max HP, MSPD, and it even gives you P damage reduction by 20%. Next up, we're gonna take the Bonded Fate at level 10. Use it on your most important teammate, I would say. Next up is Assumptio. Definitely, you need the P-Def, M-Def. After we go through the skill allocation for this, I'm gonna show you the difference with the battle theme. Lex Defina is also quite good when you want to annoy the enemy team. Of course, after that, you definitely need to take the Leap of Faith. You need movement skill, guys. Also, it gives you a shield, which is really helpful during team fights. Of course, take the anti-debuff skills. And last but not least, take the AoE Resurrection skill, the Tree. Now I'm gonna show you guys the auto settings for the PvP setup. Again, shout out to Aika for lending us his character. What you guys want to do is put all the buff skills in one side. I don't know why this is missing one skill. Let's just put Bonded Fate there. So these are the skills that you're gonna need during PvP. For the second page of the auto settings, it's more on the technical skills. So you're gonna need the Resurrection in the first part and then remove debuffs on the second part. I'm also going to put the Lex Defina in the missing slot, but actually you guys don't need to put it in the auto settings. I think it's better to put it in the manual for Lex Defina. And we're done! Now I want to show you guys real quick how OP Assumptio skill is. We're going to cast the Angelus and the Assumptio together. These are the buffs you're gonna use during PvP, and we're gonna see how much the P-Def increased. Guys, it went up to 3,700 P-Def, and M-Def also increased to 800 plus. Let me just remove the buffs real quick so you know the original value without these buffs. So we're gonna get out of here and we're gonna click on our status, remove the Angelus and the Assumptio real quick. And here is our original P-Def and M-Def values. Do you guys see how it almost doubled your defense? Now I'm going to compare it with the Performer's solo buff skills. Real quick, these are my original P-Def and M-Def values without the buffs. Now we're gonna cast our singing voice and our battle theme. Then, let us take a look at how much it increased our P-Def and our M-Def. And that, in conclusion, is how OP the buff skills from Priest are. That's why you guys should not underestimate full support Priest, okay? Now let us continue with the build for full support Priest. Aika did the equipment for the mounts a little bit differently for me. He evened it up between the 3 that I recommended in the previous video. Again, I'm going to repeat that you can just ignore the bottom right barding if you're a support. Now, you guys can do it like what Aika did because it also gives you a lot of status in the beginning part of the game. Myself, I made the lower left barding into level 30 before leveling up the upper 2 bardings. You want sturdy barding for the P-Def M-Def and you want dexterity for the PvP damage reduction. Now we're gonna move on to pets. For the pets, Aika is similar to me because he is a support. He will choose Child of Earth and King Piggy first, as well as Squidget for MVPs and dungeons. Also like me, he's tiering up the Child of Earth first. I think I'm gonna level it up to tier 5 before I focus on the King Piggy. Next up, we're going to look at Aika's feathers. Aika's feathers is also slightly different from me. You guys can follow his way of putting 2 LNDs in the attack feather set. If you guys follow Aika's feather using 2 LNDs in the attack feather set, your PvP damage reduction is still going to be the same as my feather, but then you're sacrificing your damage reduction percentage and you're looking more on the P-Def and the M-Def raw stats in your defense feathers. Now I'm just gonna put a side-by-side comparison between Aika's feathers and mine. So I wouldn't say one is better than the other, but if you're looking more on the raw P-Def M-Def, you can follow Aika's feather. But then if you're looking more for damage reduction, you can follow my feathers. Personally, I don't need that much P-Def and M-Def. In my opinion, I'm already tanky and I have Aika to buff me during team fights. However, if you're a solo support, I think it's better to look for the raw P-Def and M-Def for now, so you guys can also follow Aika's feathers. Again, these are the feathers that he uses in the defense and also the attack feathers. It's the same going down later on. Now, I also want to take you guys through the other features. First is the medals. So for medals, it's still the same. Medal of Charm for the P damage and the Tempest for the M damage reduction. For your Divine Armament, you're gonna want to use the single target heal on your weapon. So it's called the Dea Staff. For the shield, you're gonna want to use the Valkyrja Shield. It gives you the most damage reduction as opposed to the Shadow Claws, which you would need a refined 15 level. Some people might also use converters during PvP, so the damage reduction for the fire and the water really helps you. For your armor, it's always the same. Goipna set is the way to go. This is applicable to both your shoes and your cloak. Next up, we're gonna take a look at the enchants. But for the enchants, you guys can look at my previous video for the performer because it's more or less the same as my enchants. So we're just gonna look at it here, but you guys can see it's almost the same as my enchants. Just a little bit different on the weapon, possibly. For the weapon, you're gonna use the Quicken CT because you have a lot of casting as a priest. But you're gonna want to take the magic boon for your accessories. But if you guys want a more in-depth recommendation, you guys can check out my previous video on my 1-week-old performer. It's in order so you guys can see the enchants there. Last but not least is the cards, guys. We're gonna look at the weapon. You guys can use the boa because you get extra M damage and magic attack. It increases your healing. So that's why he's using 2 boas at 3-star already. For your shield, you can use, I don't know why he's using Bigfoot. I think he was fighting an insect just now. But you guys can also use the Edgar Puppet Illusion card. It's very good for your damage reduction, which is what we're trying to chase. And other than that, for now, you guys can use the Ilu Tara Frog card from your guild shop. By the way, this is my PvP recommendations. Again, Cornutus is a solid choice for now. It makes your armor indestructible. Next up, also, he's using 2 Chocos. Same as my performer. It's very useful, guys. I really recommend this card. Next up, we're gonna move on to the shoes. For the shoes, he's using Merman and the Moonlight Flower card. Merman is because he's looking for the damage reduction instead of max HP. But in my opinion, you guys can still use the Verit or Sohe card. It's also a very solid choice. Next up, for the accessories, it's the same for both. He's using the Spore card. Same as me, we're looking for the damage reduction for the awakening effect of the Spore. Now we're gonna move on to the costume cards. For the headwear, you guys can use the Elder Willow. It gives you intelligence as well as minus variable CT, which is very useful for High Priest. He does not have any other cards yet for the costumes, but you guys can follow my recommendation as I give it out in this video. Feel free to pause if you need to. And that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps a lot of full support priests out there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and see you on the next one.